Cash Johnny Caine's An American View, 1958. Episode 7, Spokane, Washington to Portland, Oregon. Peachy Cream slid quietly out of town like a rumor. The light behind me was just beginning to stretch, and I felt like a man unrolling a new map of himself. I passed through Tyler, where the wheat fields yawned in unison, gold heads nodding like an old congregation. The road was smooth and wide, and the silence between the telephone poles served as some kind of unwritten law, of which adhering to the solitude and reflection was to be respected. And I obliged. I stopped just outside Sprague Lake. The water was still as glass, and a blue heron watched me in the same way I was watching him, with a childlike curiosity. The air smelled like damp grass and old anecdotes. I skipped a stone, and it sank too fast. Perhaps I needed to try harder, or much less. In Ritzville, the wail of the whistle from the bustling train depot signaled my arrival. The tracks crisscrossed the town like a half-hearted, loosely strewn knit. Peachy Cream floated me past Moses Lake while I munched on cold ham and slaw, sipping a tall cherry cola through a paper straw. The wind licked at my collar, and the sun melted the sugar into the corner of my mouth, and I found that silly and delightful. I pulled over at Vantage and watched the Columbia split the desert like an old soul parting ways with the world. A river that would sweep you away if you let it, and a bridge practically begging you to take the dare and make a connection. I slid down through Ellensburg and let the Yakima River follow me like an uneven melody on the B-side of some obscure jazz track. The rocks, the brush, the rail line whispering backing vocals beside me, to the road humming beneath me. I passed Clay Elum, flanked by ridges sleeping under the pines. South Clay Elum Ridge and Easton Ridge stood like the shoulders of some ancient rock monster catching some rays, and I thanked them softly for waiting patiently for thousands of years, just so I could meet them. I drove slowly along Keechless Lake. I watched the water flicker like a dream sequence. A loon called out, and I answered, not in words, but with a smile. I curled the road around the Cascade Range, my thoughts operating in much of the same way, circling, lifting, drifting. The Platters came on the radio, and it snapped me out of my reverie. They were singing My Prayer, and here in my heart you will stay while I pray. And I thought, this song isn't about heaven or God at all. It's about the pain in the man's heart, uncertain of his future, with his love, with his baby, and the not knowing was sitting in his chest like a stone. I stopped near North Bend for a mess of bacon and eggs, sunny side up with some black coffee too. The pleasantly rotund waitress smiled at me like she was writing the word "dur" on her notepad, and when it came, I ate it slowly, while the jukebox played something cheerful enough. It was the Fleetwoods, I think. I passed Snoqualmie under soft clouds and blue hush, and just for a heartbeat, I saw a girl, in a flash of creamy pastel purple steel and white wall curves. She was driving a 1950 Nash Airflyte that floated beside me like a dream caught in chrome. She had a crimson-red pageboy haircut, silver gray eyes under thick brows, and a beauty mark that made you stare twice. Her cheeks were rosy, her lashes long and heavy with something electric. She wore a white wiggle dress with faded coral polka dots that clung like a secret. And her figure, curvy and unapologetic, commanded the air around her like the road itself bowed down to her. Then she was gone. Just tail lights and dust and a feeling I couldn't shake. I crossed the bridge at Beau-Ar Village, sun-dappled and open wide. Mercer Island rose like a woman wakened slowly in silk. Seattle beyond it, shimmering like it was expecting me. I found a spot in Seattle with sidewalk tables and sea breeze. Lunch was smoked salmon on rye, a fennel slaw, and black coffee poured thick. After lunch, I took a short stroll along the waterfront at Elliott Bay, where gulls circled like adorable beasts of prey, and every time the breeze brushed against my face, I found myself smiling in public like a crazy person. I slid south on the I-5, the windshield humming with the late-day heat. I was near the Poverty Bay turnoff when I saw her face again. That girl, same pastel purple Nash, rolling beside Peachy Cream like we were paying for each other's destinies with a 2-for-1 coupon. At a red light in Tacoma, we sat side by side. She didn't look over right away, or maybe she did. I was too busy pretending to be aloof, and when I deemed that to be absurd enough, I conceded and glanced over. To my surprise, she was already looking square at me and smiling as if to say, "Maybe we've done this before." Then the light went green, and she was smoke. I passed DuPont and Hogan Bay in a mental fog, a picturesque part of the world that ordinarily would have held my interest and my focus with ease. But my thoughts were now oscillating between paying attention to the road and the mysterious glamour now taking up valuable real estate in my mind. In Olympia, I stopped for pie, boysenberry, fresh and purple as sin, with a helping of whipped cream for good measure. I sat alone at the counter to eat it and nursed my coffee for so long the last couple of sips had cooled, but that didn't bother me none. I crossed the Cowlitz River under a lavender sky, felt the whole world pause and sigh. The trees leaned in, listening. I passed Castle Rock, Longview, and Cottonwood Island, each one their own verse in the song of the road. Salmon Creek shimmered beside me, silver and sweet. Vancouver flirted with the Columbia, and I drove through like a child who didn't want to blink and miss something magic. I arrived in Portland just as the neon signs began to yawn and steel themselves for the evening shift. I checked into a fine hotel called the Heathcliff, with ornate velvet wallpaper and slow-turning fans. The man at the desk, as if sensing my itch, said, "There's a lounge downstairs." So I went. And there she was, once again, that girl. Later, I would learn that her name was Eleanor. On stage, under a slow-spinning spotlight, cradling a baby-pink Fender Telecaster matching the delicate instrument curve for curve. Her silver-gray eyes half closed, her thick lashes fluttering like an aircraft marshal waving me in. Behind her, the sign read, the Dashboard Devotions, a three-piece ensemble with matching colors and sleepy grins. Then she hit the first note. It was the Platters, My Prayer, again, only slowed down to something more syrupy and viscous. Her voice poured out like warm cream into black coffee, sweet, bittersweet, and gone too soon. Tonight, while our hearts are aglow, oh, tell me the words that I'm longing to know. I closed my eyes and listened for a spell. I found each note as haunting and as angelic as the last. She looked up and noticed me, registering only a mild surprise. A glance across the candlelit tables, guitar still humming in her hands, and an almost imperceptible smile forming on her perfect face. And that confirmed the two things that I had suspected since Snoqualmie. I knew that somewhere, somehow, through galactic providence or otherwise, I was going to find her again. And two, I was going to be leaving Portland first thing in the morning, certain that after tonight I was never going to see this girl again for the rest of my life. To say nothing of the fact that I would be checking out of a perfectly suitable room at the Heathcliff in the morning with a bed that was going to go unslept in.